In a small village, Kisa Gotami held her only son for the last time, her world collapsing into a silence deeper than any night. Refusing to accept what her heart already knew, she ran, clutching the tiny body as if she could outrun death itself. She begged every healer, every wise person in the village, but no one possessed the medicine she demanded. Hearing of the Enlightened One, she carried her burden to the Buddha, believing only he could reverse the irreversible. "Please," she whispered, her voice cracking like dry earth, "give me medicine to bring my son back to life." The Buddha looked upon her not with pity, but with understanding, and offered her a task instead of a miracle. "Go into the city," he said gently, "and bring me a mustard seed from a house that has never known death." Believing the task was simple, she laid her son down beneath a tree and set out, her heart lighter with purpose. At the first house, an old woman smiled and offered a handful of mustard seeds willingly. But when she asked, "Has death ever visited this house?" the woman's smile faded, and she spoke of her husband, gone 20 years. Her hand opened, and the seeds fell back into the bowl, her first lesson in universal sorrow. She moved to the next house, and the next, each door opening with kindness, each hand offering the tiny golden seed. A young mother, no older than herself, quietly confessed that her firstborn had died of fever the previous winter. The wealthy merchant, surrounded by silk and gold, spoke of his son who sailed away and never returned. An old fisherman, his nets tangled and torn, told her of his wife who sang him songs until the sea took her voice forever. A child offered her a seed with a smile, then asked, "Are you looking for a house where no one has died? That sounds like a fairy tale." A blind grandmother held her hand and said, "Child, death is the one guest who visits every home. You are not alone." The potter, shaping vessels from dust, confessed that his daughter had returned to dust only last spring. Dozens of doors, dozens of seeds offered, dozens of stories of love and loss, each one a mirror held up to her own grief. As the sun began to sink, Kisa Gotami sank with it, her hands still empty, her heart finally beginning to open. She looked at her empty hands and understood. She had been asking for something no one on earth could give. She looked at the village as evening fell and saw lights flicker on in every home, each one a family, each one a history, each one acquainted with grief. With heavy but steady feet, she walked back to the tree where her son lay waiting, no longer seeking a cure, but ready for a goodbye. She gathered her son close, not in desperation, but in love, the only medicine she had ever truly needed. With her own hands, she buried her son beneath the tree and watered the earth with her tears, letting him go at last. She sat through the night, not sleeping, not weeping, just breathing, remembering, and slowly beginning to heal. When dawn broke, the world was not different, but Kisa Gotami was. She returned to the Buddha not with a mustard seed, but with an enlightened heart. She did not speak, and neither did he. In the silence, everything that needed to be said was understood. "You have discovered," the Buddha said, "what no seed could teach you, that grief is not carried alone." She looked at the tiny seed in her palm, so small, so ordinary, yet it had unlocked the greatest truth she would ever know. She saw now that death was not a thief that had robbed only her, but a visitor who knocked on every door. And so Kisa Gotami began to walk a different path, not away from suffering, but alongside it, with others. In comforting others, she found her own comfort, In holding their grief, her own grief learned to breathe. Seasons passed, and the tree beneath which she buried her son bloomed with flowers as white as hope. She did not forget her son. She carried him not in her arms, but in her heart, where he could live without suffering. In time, they came to call her wise, though she insisted she had only learned what every door in the village had tried to teach her. One day, she planted a mustard seed in the earth, not as medicine, but as a promise that life continues. And where once there was only grief, now there was a field of gold. Each flower a story, each seed a memory, each breath a gratitude. Suffering is not a curse upon the few. It is the thread that weaves through every human story, binding us not in sorrow, but in understanding. If this story touched your heart, share it with someone who needs to know they are not alone in their grief, and consider subscribing for more tales of hope and humanity.